Hey, it's Chàe.
I'm Chelsea.
I'm Emma.
And this is Hannah.
We will be talking about our podcast in progress, Gabbing with the Girls.
So far, we have released 4 podcasts on various topics, all relating to the future of Chàe and the changes and iterations we are undergoing as a media company to better create content for our audience.
Our first 2 podcasts were released earlier in the semester, prompting the discussion of the reality of continuing our magazine. In our first podcast, we probed our audience to look out for tweets that we had released asking for their preferences and ideas in relation to our content creation.
While sharing our own ideas and struggles with the magazine, we ended our first podcast and released our promised tweets. Our second podcast discussed these tweets in depth, finding that our audience did in fact want our magazine to be continued. However, this continuation was accompanied with the desire for us to post more video content.
In the podcast, we discussed the realities of our future in Chàe with the video content. We outlined our strong desire to start experimenting with TikToks and Instagram Reels, with the requirement to go out of our comfort zones for the benefit of our audience desires.
Our polls also consisted of some questions about the type of content we are sharing, demonstrating that our audience would like more student-related advice on life in addition to advice on creating visual aesthetic.
In the podcast, we discussed our strengths in visual aesthetics and decided to change up our Instagram posting to incorporate advice for students, which has so far consisted of phone anxiety, sleeping advice, assignment prioritizing advice, and much more. Chàe has made sure the feedback we have received from our audience was being taken in real steps with achievable and measurable goals.
Our tweets also unveiled our audience being keen on some Etsy shop merch, which we have taken realistic steps to achieving for them. We have started planning the release of certain merchandise such as prints and stickers in a potential Etsy shop. Having created and printed them, we have finally captured some product photos to start advertising the possibility of Etsy merchandise. Chàe will be monitoring the response of these posts and polls and plan accordingly to take realistic steps to achieving our 5-year goal of having some form of monetization in the future.
Furthermore, Chàe's next 2 podcasts were concentrated on Jodie Turner and precisely how Chàe is going to be taking real steps to achieving our 5-year goals and what exactly these goals are. We discussed on what we will plan to sell in the future, one of them being stickers and prints as mentioned before. Our third episode was one where we truly imagined how well selling things on Etsy could work for us, the benefits with our audience, and the exposure it could have for Chàe to expand. The 4th episode was where we discussed the podcast itself, what was working against what wasn't working for us. We tried different editing techniques as well as different environments so that we could reflect on this. We had real conversations as well about Chàe, our own opinions on how far we could go with Chàe, what won't work and how it could be a downfall. But continuing it could broaden our chances for an amazing opportunity.
We are starting to get more familiar with video content as our audience has requested, releasing some TikToks and Instagram Reels of a more introductory vibe, before diving into what our audience needs from us. All these commitments of designing and planning Etsy details in addition to creating video content has infringed on our ability to produce consistent podcasts. This is something we are going to need to iterate, with some scheduling of not only our podcast but other content as well.
It can clearly be seen how our podcasts have reached our audience and galvanized them to interact with us for the benefit of their content consumption. We will continue producing podcasts for the benefit as we plan to achieve more of our audience requests to attain the realism of where we see ourselves in 5 years' time.
We hope you enjoy and stay to see the future of Chàe.